So Warframe's latest dev stream has just ended and it's got quite a few hot topics in it. Today's dev stream was all a Q&A session between loads of questions about the current and future state of the game from the community. I think there was about 20 questions in total. Questions that, if I'm being honest, have been asked quite a lot in the past over the last few years as well. So they're being brought up again today, ranging from questions about Steel Path and Railjack rewards, making them more appealing, to questions about fashion and of course Captura as well, with some questions a mix of buffs and minor nerfs thrown into the middle. So let's jump right in, I guess, to the one topic that everyone's going to be fixating on. Guns in Warframe are about to get some hefty buffs, bringing them up in line with melee damage in game. Digital Extremes are well aware of the difference in damage between weapons in game, or weapon types in game, and they want to rectify this by buffing up the game's gunplay, possibly with the help of scaling mods or some other ideas that they are currently working on, but they are also not happy with the current state of melee weapons right now as well. The fact that you can constantly stagger enemies while boosting your attack speed to the point where you can't even see what the hell is happening anymore. It's just a blend of limbs and particles. They want to make using melee weapons more dangerous for the user, risk versus reward for getting up close and personal with enemies. They also mentioned attack speed stacking being an issue that they are looking at, like Berserker maybe stacking with an attack speed arcane and so on. So to counter this, melee is going to be seeing a very tiny nerf. That's their words, not mine. Attack speed seems to be one of the focal points of this, while maybe also working on adding different attack styles. So they said that this rebalance will be 90% gun buff and maybe 10% melee nerf. So instead of maybe fixating on that 10% nerf, 90% gun buff means you're going to have a lot more options to use now when running into missions with some of your favorite weapons. So to me, that sounds quite good, but I am a kind of gunplay kind of guy. I prefer the gunplay than I do the melee. I've said that in past videos. And while doing this, of course, it's also going to rebalance the entire game's meta, I would imagine, with guns hopefully being more fun to use for you guys. And it won't just be carrying a gun on your back for an amalgam mod or for priming status effects on enemies. Melee, they said, will still be the top damage, but guns will be competitive to use as well. Now, I'm sure I'm going to read a lot of doom and gloom comments where people who are going to fixate on the nerf side of things and not so much the buff side of things. I'm not going to be able to help that. It is what it is. Even though the developers said specifically during the dev stream they want to focus on buffing guns and only tweaking little sections of the melee damage a bit. And if you're being honest, right, they bloody needed it. The combat in Warframe has become super stale, which is saying a lot. But aside from the gun buff and the tiny melee nerf, maybe to cheer you up, raids apparently are also back on the table with Warframe. You know the third Orb Mother, the one that's been stewing in the jacuzzi in Orb Valis, the long forgotten Orb Mother that we haven't fought yet? Well, apparently its fight is being worked on as a raid, as a return to Trials in Warframe. They are pretty far along apparently with the development of the Orb Mother's animations, but they are only at the theory part for the actual fight, so it's really early days. It's probably going to stew a little while longer in that jacuzzi before we ever get to fight it. Who knows, 6 months, a year, 2 years, time will tell. Spring this year will be Warframe's next update, Railjack 3.0, which will be connecting missions better, Command Intrinsic, Corpus Railjack, I think, Intrinsic rebalance, the Void Storms, Necromechs being usable in Railjack missions, and so on. But then after that, in late spring, we will have the Call of the Tempestari update with Sevagoth, Zephyr Deluxe and so on, which is update 30. Now, they mentioned Corpus Liches. They won't be coming to the game in either of those two updates. We're going to have to wait a little longer for the Corpus Liches. And they did also mention that they are going to work on maybe fixing the Steel Path rewards to make running Steel Path missions more desirable. So we're going to have to look out for that as well. The Railjack harness topic was spoken about, where your own avionics and mods for your own personal Railjack will carry across from your gameplay into someone else's Railjack session. So if you're on someone else's ship, rather than using their, I guess, intrinsics or their weapons, you're not going to be restricted to the host's Railjack build or upgrades. You can use your own. Mech suits will also apparently be integrated into the game's intrinsics, or into Railjack's intrinsics. Void Storms was something that they spoke about as well, which will possibly allow you to crack relics open while also allowing you to farm certain relics as well, with some old vaulted relics possibly coming out of retirement and being put into that rotation in Railjack missions so that you can constantly farm them. Now remember, these new Railjack mission types are going to be about 5 minutes of Railjack followed by about 15 to 20 minutes of you inside an enemy ship with boots on the ground, so that's probably where you're going to grind or farm for those relics, is inside those ships. Again, 5 minutes Railjack, 20 minutes boots on the ground running around killing things sounds much better to me as well. Now Orphic's Venom styled missions will be back with the new Railjack update, which will allow you to get your hands on arcanes, hopefully a lot easier than they were before. So maybe hold off if you're in the mind right now that you want to go out and you want to spend a couple thousand platinum on a full set of arcanes. Maybe hold off and wait a month or so until this update drops and then farm those arcanes yourself, save that platinum, because that market is more than likely going to plummet. Most of the dev stream was Q&A, but there was also some other bits like the pet rework, we're told is still being worked on. Steel Path rewards, like I said, are being looked at to make it more appealing. The Ghoul Saw melee weapons animations were shown off again. We've seen Sevagoth again. Sevagoth can be modded however you want, but then you can also go and mod Sevagoth's shadow. So the entity that you kind of fire out in front of yourself with the blades, or the entity that you transform into, sorry, you can mod that differently to how you mod your actual Sevagoth. So it's kind of like an exalted shadow, while also being able to mod its claws as well. So this Warframe is going to have 3 different areas that need modding: the Warframe, the shadow and the claws. So there's going to need plenty of armor with this Warframe. You can also change Sevagoth's shadow's appearance separate to how the normal Sevagoth looks. Sevagoth's Helminth ability is going to be his Gloom ability, and if you're curious as to what that ability is, it's the one where you basically leave an area of effect down on the ground which will reduce enemy speed as they walk into it, while also giving teammates lifesteal when they deal damage to the enemies inside it. So it could be a really nice ability on a Warframe that you might mod for, I guess, range and strength. We also got a look at Sevagoth's signature weapon, which was the wrist mounted gun. Still don't have a name for that yet, but it did look interesting to use. They hinted at something possibly happening with Stalker, but then they didn't elaborate on it, so I'm just going to move on, which was strange, right? It was strange for them to hint at something and then not give a little bit more detail, not hang that little bit of fucking cheese out there for you to nibble on, to get a little bit excited about. It was strange to see that, because this time last year they definitely would have shown something to get the hype going. So this new digital extreme just focusing on the imminent content drops is good to see. Now we got a look at Zephyr Deluxe, the new Zephyr Deluxe skin in game, and it looked absolutely incredible. This skin is coming with update 30 as well, late spring, like some kind of Wipeout frame or Decepticon frame. It definitely looked appealing. So if you're a Zephyr player, then this is definitely a skin you probably have your eyes on. There is currently no other Umbral Warframes being worked on right now, and it didn't sound like they've got any plans currently to make another Umbral Warframe. But apart from that, that's the meat of the whole dev stream. I would imagine the hot topic will be the buff to guns and the nerf to melee. I would honestly advise waiting to see exactly what this entails when a dev workshop post goes up, to allow you to see in greater detail what this means. Them saying 90% guns and 10% melee doesn't exactly do a whole lot. You're going to have to see details before you make, I guess, an assumption as to what's going to happen. But share your thoughts in the comment section below, and as always, thanks for watching.